Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. Transcend reincarnation. Morosa shook its head. Master, you are a life form of the primal universe. But I am not. The level I am at now might be the equivalent to a true god of void space level, but no one has ever forced me into transcending reincarnation. Luo Feng lamented and sighed. That was how impressive it was. Being at a comparable status as the primal universe, even the willpower of the origin would have no way of coercing it to do anything against its wishes. Let's go, Luo Feng said. You need to make a trip to Purple Moon Holy Land with me. Yes, Master. Morosa's eyes revealed a hint of anticipation. Of course, it knew what it was going to be doing. There was not a single hint of pity in Luo Feng's eyes. Previously, he'd had to deal with the sector beast crisis, so in light of the most important matters at hand, he had put all else aside. There had been no time to waste. But now, the crisis was over. Purple Moon Holy Land had constantly oppressed the humans, always trying to kill him. They had targeted him multiple times, becoming his sworn enemy long ago. And he also needed to retrieve the last component of his Shawu wings. Star Tower teleported right away, and vanished within the vast, chaotic airflow. While Luo Feng and Morosa made their way to Purple Moon Holy Land universe, a gathering was taking place in the Pantheon Sanctuary of the virtual universe. The humans and other races from the Hong Alliance and various groups of powers, like the Demons, the Bugs, the Space Beast Alliance, the Ancestral God School, and even some of the Supreme Masters, who were lone travelers like Sitting Mountain Guest, had gathered here. Silence. The most they did was exchange conversations via voice transmissions. The worry in their eyes and on their faces was difficult to conceal. This final battle concerned the life and death of all the races. If the news they received was a nightmare, that would mean all of them would be annihilated. Seated at the highest level, garbed in his white robe, Luo Feng's eyes were shut. No one dared to disturb him. Suddenly, Luo Feng opened his eyes. The many true gods had set aside a part of their thoughts to keep tabs on Luo Feng. At that moment, they all looked over. Even the many universe masters outside the Pantheon Sanctuary got to their feet. They were all watching the Great Hall from afar. Anticipation filled their eyes, as they all waited for Luo Feng to announce the outcome. Dear all, he said. Luo Feng looked below, a smile suddenly broke out over his face. Just one smile, and right away, all the true gods below, and even the universe masters outside had an inkling of the answer. However, if they did not hear it straight from Luo Feng, could not rest assured of the certainty of the answer. One by one, they held their breath and stared hard at Luo Feng. They were all waiting for him to make the announcement. The final battle. We won. Luo Feng's voice rang loud and clear. The sector beast crisis is over. This reincarnation generation is still going to continue for several trillion eras. Fret not, everyone. All the true gods below cheered at the same time. Victory, victory. Great. We won. They were all top-tiered existences that stood at the peak of their own races, but at that moment, none of them could be bothered about proper conduct. The universe masters outside Pantheon Sanctuary were just as excited. Sitting Mountain Guest, who was seated below, looked at Luo Feng from afar. He, too, smiled. At long last, he could let out a sigh of relief. Luo Feng. Primal Chaos City leader turned to look at Luo Feng. Laughing had never felt more natural than it did now. My disciple, you have never disappointed me. The atmosphere was filled with jubilation. The various races all knew the outcome, and the news spread like wildfire. Even the handful of true gods from the first and second reincarnation eras, who had lost their miniature universes, and thus gone into hiding in Universe Ocean, heard the news. It was a success. We pulled through. The others like Juhi True God and Rampaging Devil God, who were scattered all over Universe Ocean, were extremely lonely. When they learned of the news, they were not very happy, because their miniature universes and all their people had been exterminated. Now, they would spend their lives as lonely souls, waiting for doomsday to arrive. Within East Emperor Holy Land universe, East Emperor Ancestor was pacing the vast continent, watching the lives of his people. Have we pulled through? Some of his people were so weak that their lives would not even surpass 100 years. Traversing the great continent and seeing the life and death reincarnations, East Emperor Ancestor was already prepared, but the moment the news reached him, the joy in his heart simply could not be contained and came surging out. Ha ha ha, East Emperor Ancestor threw his head back and laughed heartily. He was laughing for himself, as well as his own people. The entire East Emperor universe, including all the true gods and universe masters, were extremely excited. They were all rejoicing and celebrating, because they had made it through this calamity. It was the same joyous atmosphere within the Purple Moon Holy Land universe. Not only were the universe masters and true gods getting emotional, but even Purple Moon Ancestor was delighted. I have extraordinary opportunities, said Purple Moon Ancestor. I am bound for great achievements. How can it be possible for me to meet my downfall in the face of this sector beast calamity? Purple Moon Ancestor was relaxed and happy. Then a glimmer of anger flashed in his eyes. That Luo Feng unexpectedly managed to stop this sector beast crisis from happening. His great potential is indeed intimidating. He will become my greatest opponent in the future. Why did he not perish along with the sector beasts? Forget it. Since he managed to survive this time around. Purple Moon Ancestor shook his head. Seems like I can only look forward to the future to see whether he is more powerful, or I am more powerful. For now, I don't believe I will lose to him. Then Purple Moon Ancestor pushed aside all thoughts of Luo Feng. He joined his underlings, as they all started their celebration banquet. Surviving a crisis was indeed a major event worthy of celebration. Just as all the higher-ups of Purple Moon Holy Land were happily celebrating, amidst the void space surrounding Purple Moon Holy Land universe, Star Tower appeared. Two figures walked out from the side door at the base of Star Tower. One of them was a man clad in silver armor, Luo Feng, and the other was a handsome king with a pair of curved horns, Morosa. Purple Moon Holy Land. Luo Feng looked into the distance at the gigantic miniature universe. It's time for annihilation. Both parties had long been sworn enemies. Would Luo Feng go easy on them? Morosa, how long will you need to swallow it all? Luo Feng asked persistently. I am different from the second stage and third stage sector beasts, Morosa said with a smile. My sector is now truly perfect. My ability to swallow naturally reached a new level high. It should be very fast, but I need to try before I will know exactly how long I will need. You may begin. Luo Feng instructed. Morosa nodded. It looked into the distance at Purple Moon Holy Land universe. Then its pair of horns suddenly shot out countless distorted white ray of light. The tip of each horn was like the source. Together, the tips of its two horns resembled the constellation Gemini. The tips of its horns were influencing one another, forming a strange gravitational force that completely shrouded the faraway Purple Moon Holy Land universe. Time and space trembled and vibrated, then became distorted. A dazzling radiance followed the countless distorted rays of light, and crazily penetrated Morosa's body. Morosa became immeasurably dazzling, like a sun 1,000,000,000,000 times brighter than anything else. Luo Feng looked to his side at Morosa. The king of the sector beasts was so dazzling that Luo Feng could not clearly make out its features. How is it? He asked. Purple Moon Ancestor must be trying to use his willpower for additional power, as he tries his best to put up a resistance, Morosa said. This Purple Moon Holy Land universe is very big, indeed. Such an extremely powerful origin. With the support of his own willpower, if I want to devour it, I would need some time. Probably around 1 day. 1 day. Luo Feng laughed. Second stage and third stage sector beasts would have required around 100,000 years to finish devouring everything. The king of the sector beast only required a day. This is the day I have been waiting for. Luo Feng laughed. Within the Purple Moon Holy Land universe, Purple Moon Ancestor had originally been seated high up above everyone else, while the true gods and universe masters were helping themselves to delectable cuisine and fine wine, overjoyed as they conversed incessantly at loud volumes. But now, sector beasts are devouring. Ancestor, are you saying the sector beasts are devouring our purple moon holy land? How is that possible? The primal universe sent us a message informing us that the sector beast crisis is over, right? Hasn't Milky Way Horde leader gotten rid of all the sector beasts? There was an uproar among the crowd. Purple Moon Ancestor stood above them all, his face filled with anger as he shouted furiously at them. There are sector beasts devouring the origin of our Purple Moon Holy Land universe right now. This is my miniature universe. How would I not know? Could I be wrong with something like this? Hurry, send the message to those of us in the primal universe right away. Tell them. The sector beasts have yet to be exterminated, and they are attacking my miniature universe right now. Yes, Ancestor. Understood. Understood. The true gods and universe masters beneath him were flustered. They all started to transmit messages to the true gods in the primal universe. Purple Moon Ancestor stood way up high with a face filled with hostility. He was angry and anxious. His miniature universe was being devoured in a continuous manner, and the speed at which it was being devoured scared him. He was also fuming mad at Milky Way Horde leader Luo Feng, who had claimed that the sector beast calamity was over. Why were there sector beasts coming to devour his miniature universe again? Could it be that Luo Feng lost? Purple Moon Ancestor wondered to himself. He must have known everything would be exterminated. Could it be that, before the extermination, he has decided to go crazy and wantonly spread false news of his victory? Anyway, he will have to be exterminated if he lost, right? So, in his moment of insanity, he must have purposefully come up with such a ploy. Purple Moon Ancestor started to let his thoughts run wild in his anxiety. It had never occurred to him that a sector beast would become Luo Feng's slave. In light of this, Luo Feng had never publicized it. Even the groups of top powers from the primal universe were equally clueless about the fact that Luo Feng had enslaved a sector beast. In the virtual universe, at the Pantheon Sanctuary, true gods and universe masters from various races were all gathered. They were holding a grand ceremony to celebrate their victory over the sector beasts. They had stemmed the tide of the sector beast crisis. Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City leader were seated at the topmost level. Joy and laughter filled the room. Suddenly, a voice resounded, saying, "The sector beasts have not been exterminated. The sector beasts are devouring Purple Moon Holy Land universe now." As the voice rang out, the entire Pantheon Sanctuary instantly fell silent. Yes, the sector beasts were not exterminated. There is already news coming from Purple Moon Holy Land. They are being attacked by the sector beasts, and the origin of Purple Moon Holy Land universe is currently being devoured. Purple Moon Holy Land is in the middle of being attacked by the sector beasts. There are still sector beasts around. There was an instant uproar within the Pantheon Sanctuary. Would Milky Way Horde leader lie? Everyone was on pins and needles. Space Beast Ancestor also voiced his concerns. Milky Way Horde leader, are the sector beasts completely wiped out, or are there still some surviving sector beasts? 9 Remoteness True Master was also worried. Milky Way, if there are remnants of the sector beasts roaming around, we must quickly get rid of them. Otherwise, when the few remaining sector beasts start to grow and develop, they will again impose a great threat on us. Dear all. Luo Feng looked down at everyone, and the moment he spoke, everyone quietened down. Rest assured, he said. The sector beast crisis is now over. If you don't believe me, you can ask the 3 ancestral gods. I believe the 3 ancestral gods will have received news from the willpower of the origin. They will know whether or not the sector beast crisis is over. Instantly, everyone within the Pantheon Sanctuary looked at the 3 ancestral gods. The 3 ancestral gods looked at one another. The old ancestral god spoke up. The sector beast crisis is, most certainly, a thing of the past. Period. Ha ha ha. We are relieved to hear what the ancestral god has said. The tense atmosphere within the Pantheon sanctuary immediately eased up. However, there were still a handful of true gods asking, why would Purple Moon Holy Land say that the sector beasts are attacking their Holy Land universe? Luo Feng looked down. It is not an attack from the sector beasts. It's me. I am the one attacking. It will not take long for Universe Ocean to be forever rid of Purple Moon Holy Land. Purple Moon Holy Land would no longer exist in Universe Ocean. The true gods seated down there looked at each other. They all knew it. If the ancestral gods, who could talk to the original mind of the original universe, said the crisis of the sector beasts had passed, then it was the truth. Luo Feng really might have been the one who was attacking Purple Moon Holy Land. After all, aside from the sector beasts, only Luo Feng was powerful enough to destroy Purple Moon Holy Land. How powerful was Luo Feng? None of the true gods knew exactly, but they all knew he was powerful. They hadn't witnessed how he had killed all those 8 million sector beasts. But they had seen 900,000 sector beasts rush to Universe Ocean and destroy the miniature universes of the first and the second universe eras. At least, the true gods from the 2 universe eras had seen it. The sector beasts could easily annihilate all the races. However, they had all been destroyed by Luo Feng. If the sector beasts were terrifying to begin with, then what about Luo Feng? The one who had annihilated all the sector beasts. It was terrifying to even think about it, in addition to his other achievements. In the world of Jin, hundreds of universe masters had been killed at the same time. As just a universe master, he had become the most powerful great being in Universe Ocean. Divine I True God and others had machine-type valuables, yet they were still no match for Luo Feng. When he became a true god, all the races, including the true gods, saluted him. It all demonstrated the extraordinary power of Milky Way Horde leader. Inside Purple Moon Holy Land. Perhaps Luo Feng wasn't lying. He did kill many sector beasts, but there's a chance that there are some that remain. Purple Moon Ancestor's eyes gleamed, and he yelled. Tell the original universe that there are still some sector beasts. Tell Milky Way Horde leader to come here and kill the sector beasts. Everyone was silent. Many universe masters looked up at Purple Moon Ancestor. Purple Moon Ancestor frowned and yelled, "What's happening?" "Ancestor," yelled a universe master standing down there. "A piece of news just arrived from the original universe. Milky Way Horde leader admitted that it's him who's attacking Purple Moon Holy Land. Luo Feng wants to destroy Purple Moon Holy Land." "What?" Purple Moon Ancestor was shocked. "Impossible," he roared in a rage. "It can't be Luo Feng. It has to be sector beasts. It's sector beasts that are eating the origin of my miniature universe." Ancestor, the original mind of the original universe, already told the 3 ancestral gods that the sector beast crisis was already over, cried an elder with 3 heads and 8 arms. "That Luo Feng has immense power, and he indeed destroyed all the sector beasts. He's more horrifying than the sector beasts. He must be using some special skills to deal with this holy land." Everyone was crying. They were filled with regret. If the Holy Land was destroyed, the entire race would go extinct. None of them were afraid of death. However, they would be damned if the entire race was annihilated. But what could they do? Try to stop him? All of them combined were nothing compared to a single strike from Luo Feng. How? How is it possible? Purple Moon Ancestor was horrified. Even the original mind of the original universe admitted it. Luo Feng. He's attacking my miniature universe. He's only a true god. How can he destroy my miniature universe? Purple Moon Ancestor found it hard to believe. Even if Luo Feng was at a supreme level, this was, after all, a miniature universe of true gods of void space. How could it be destroyed? Purple Moon Ancestor had set Luo Feng up without any fear that Luo Feng would take revenge. He hadn't believed Luo Feng could do anything to him. And that was true. Luo Feng, indeed, couldn't do anything about the miniature universes of true gods of void space, but the king of the sector beasts could. The king of the sector beasts was even able to eat the origin of the original universe, not to mention Purple Moon Holy Land. Go. Go meet Luo Feng. These are his coordinate. Purple Moon Ancestor clenched his teeth. Ask him if he will spare the billions of lives from Purple Moon Holy Land. We'll say yes to any conditions he has. Yes, Ancestor. More than 10 beings rushed out immediately. Perhaps it was shameful for them to beg for mercy, but temporary shame was still better than the extinction of their races and the loss of all hope. How did I get here? Purple Moon Ancestor raised his head and closed his eyes. 15 great beings flew out to where Purple Moon Ancestor sensed the source of the swallowing. At those coordinates, all 15 great beings instantly teleported and drew close to the coordinates. Endless golden waves permeated. Milky Way Horde Leader, if you're willing to spare all the lives in Purple Moon Holy Land, we'll say yes to any conditions. The 15 great beings flew into the golden waves and moved forward. A wave rushed toward them, and all 15 great beings were instantly annihilated. Deep in the area, Luo Feng and Morosa stood there while Morosa was performing his ability to absorb. Luo Feng sneered. You tried to destroy the human race before. Why didn't you think of the billions of lives of my race? You tried to destroy my race before, so don't blame us for you dying out. Luo Feng didn't even care to negotiate. He killed everyone who approached. Luo Feng wouldn't allow the beings from Purple Moon Holy Land to come here. Otherwise, the great beings from Purple Moon Holy Land would see Morosa. Perhaps they wouldn't have been able to tell that Morosa was a sector beast, but just in case, Luo Feng didn't want the great beings from Purple Moon Holy Land to see Morosa. Luo Feng wouldn't tell anyone from the original universe about the existence of Morosa. After all, it was related to lots of things. There were too many mysteries in Universe Ocean. The body of the godly king of Jin, that had flown from the depths of Universe Ocean, made Luo Feng realize that there might be some secrets in Universe Ocean that were unknown. When the king of the sector beasts reached the pinnacle level, it had been a catastrophe even in the ancient civilization, and it had been easy for it to destroy Jin country. He couldn't let the news out. As long as he didn't say anything, and Morosa also had the ability to be invisible and formless, nobody would be able to recognize it. It would be his trump card. He needed to hide it well. Ancestor, our bodies were killed the second we rushed into the area of that domain. We couldn't even see Luo Feng's face. The second group. Purple Moon Ancestor clenched his teeth. Another group of great beings went out, but they were also annihilated. Some even sent messages to their friends in the original universe, asking them to send the messages to Luo Feng. But he still refused. Ha ha ha, Purple Moon suddenly guffawed, baffling all the universe masters and true gods seated down there. I can't believe I've been proud for so long, yet I'm being destroyed by this Milky Way Horde leader. Purple Moon Ancestor guffawed. Go, he said, waving his hands. Go and meet your friends and families. There's still half a day to go before everything is no more. The universe masters and true gods down below couldn't control their emotions either. There's no eternal glory, and everything has an incarnation. We're dying today, but that Luo Feng will also die someday. We've existed for a long time. That's much better than the races that only lasted for 3 universe eras. I'm satisfied already. The human race will be extinct someday. Some had already been content. Some were swearing at Luo Feng and the humans. More great beings flew out of the palace to take their final action before they died. They went to see their hometowns, to see their disciples, and to await their deaths. Purple Moon Ancestor walked out of the palace, entering the origin of his universe. Inside the origin, he could see every part of Purple Moon Holy Land. It's all over, whispered Purple Moon Ancestor. My race will go extinct as well. However, I won't admit defeat. I'll never admit defeat. As Luo Feng watched, that giant universe started to crack and crumble. It was crumbling very quickly compared to when Huge Axe had been killed. When Huge Axe was killed, the origin of his miniature universe was still intact, so it would only collapse slowly. However, for a miniature universe whose origin was swallowed, the membrane would disintegrate and fade away soon. It's coming. The 5 pairs of wings on Luo Feng's back were shaking, and a trace of light was flying toward him from the broken purple moon holy land. Luo Feng kept teleporting and getting closer. The final pair of wings. The other 5 pairs of wings also flew out, combining with the pair of silver wings flying toward him. Chaotic golden wings. Luo Feng looked at the 6 pairs of gleaming wings floating in the sky and couldn't help smiling. It was the complete set of chaotic golden wings. Even though he was already at a superior level, having reached the level of a top-tier true god of void space, he still wasn't qualified to use the 5th level of Shawu Wing. The 5th level was driven by eternal true gods. Knowing that, and given the fact that it would take an ordinary sector beast 100,000 years to swallow Purple Moon Holy Land, Luo Feng had waited until this moment to tackle Purple Moon Holy Land. Ha ha. Luo Feng had his 6 pairs of wings wide open. They are complete now. However, there's still some damage inside the 5th pair of wings. The other 5 pairs of wings making up his Shawu wings had already been repaired by the energies in the origin. The last pair of wings weren't repaired yet. If I can burn my godly power to the limit, then I can repair it. Luo Feng gave it a try. However, it's going to take a very long time. If I were an eternal true god, I would be able to repair it instantly. No need to rush. I have all the time in the world. Luo Feng teleported and flew toward the broken Purple Moon Holy Land. It was a holy land, after all, and there could be some remains from the 3 lands of extremis. Luo Feng searched everywhere, and he gained quite a bit. Luo Feng stood in the space, and there were space fragments and broken lands everywhere. He stood at the point where the origin of the Holy Land used to be. Luo Feng frowned and looked around. The Holy Land is broken, but where is Purple Moon Ancestor? The miniature universe was broken, but that only meant the Great Being couldn't be improved anymore. It didn't kill the Great Being. Purple Moon Ancestor could still be alive. Purple Moon Ancestor and East Emperor Ancestor are the only ones who could put up with the sector beasts and not do anything about it, Luo Feng thought. Even if he wanted to kill me. Even if hundreds of universe masters were killed, Purple Moon Ancestor has never stepped out of the Holy Land, and I still can't see him even after the Holy Land has been destroyed. Does that mean he isn't in his Holy Land? Whispered Luo Feng. Could it be that only his godly power avatar was in the Holy Land? Then Luo Feng turned his head, and he looked at the end of the chaos air. That was where the giant object that might be Godly King of Jin was flying. Are there other secrets in the depths of Universe Ocean? Wondered Luo Feng. The secrets of the ancient civilization. And Purple Moon Ancestor is also there. Luo Feng looked into the distance within the silent, chaotic airflow. He had long had his doubts that Purple Moon Ancestor would be within this miniature universe. Otherwise, he would have made his way out upon being forced to a corner. Of course, there also could have been a unique situation, such as Purple Moon Ancestor being confined within the miniature universe, and thus unable to leave it. If that was the case, then Luo Feng destroying the miniature universe was the same as releasing Purple Moon Ancestor. But in light of this possibility, Luo Feng had prepared well ahead of time. Without even mentioning the fact that Morosa was the king of sector beasts, its power matched the level of a true god of void space. And like a true god of void space that could sweep away everything. At the very least, Purple Moon Ancestor would not be able to block its attacks. As for Luo Feng, he could execute linear element technique, which was even more superior than divine eye technique. Linear element technique was a supreme willpower technique that even godly kings would go crazy over. Even an opponent that was a worthy match for that willpower, if pitted against another being who possessed linear element technique, would have great influence exerted over it. Its opponent might even be able to cause it to fall directly into a state of unconsciousness. Luo Feng's willpower had become holy. In other words, for any being whose willpower had yet to become holy, the moment it was hit by Luo Feng's willpower, the impact would bring it down without fail. East Emperor Ancestor and Purple Moon Ancestor's miniature universes. Back then, Morosa had tried to devour their miniature universes, so it could verify that East Emperor Ancestor's willpower was stronger and Purple Moon Ancestor's willpower was weaker. Among the true gods of void space, there are quite a few whose willpower has attained the level of an eternal true god. But for them to achieve the level where their willpower becomes holy, that is almost impossible. Luo Feng shook his head. Purple Moon is weaker than East Emperor, making it all the more impossible for his willpower to become holy. Regardless of East Emperor or Purple Moon, they both have already transcended reincarnation, Luo Feng said to himself, so they possess eternal life. So, where are they? The universe ocean was just too mysterious. Take the world of Jin, for example. It had some eternal true god existences like the four major generals. These allowed Luo Feng to understand that he was not invincible. This was the reason why Luo Feng had to carefully hide this king of the sector beast. It was his trump card. Luo Feng took Morosa with him and made his way back to the primal universe. Leaving Morosa behind in his miniature universe, Luo Feng headed back to the primal universe in his original body to the void space of Milky Way Holy Land. Let's go. We shall make our way to the ancestral god school, said Primal Chaos City leader. He was extremely excited. Luo Feng had just returned from Universe Ocean, and Primal Chaos City leader was already rushing Luo Feng off to the ancestral god school, prepared to demand Teacher Origin's release. He had waited far too long for this day to arrive. Luo Feng also smiled in response. Teacher and disciple traveled alongside one another. Very quickly, they arrived at the ancestral god palace of the ancestral god secret region. Stepping into the ancestral god palace, they saw three ancestral gods seated in the hall. The three of you, Primal Chaos City leader said pointedly. I think our purpose in coming here is clear to you all. The sector beast crisis is over. Shouldn't the willpower of the Origin keep the promise it previously made and release our Teacher Origin? The three ancestral gods looked down at them. Then one of them, the old ancestral god, spoke up. Primal Chaos City leader, worry not. Since the willpower of the Origin has given its word, it will fulfill what it has promised. Previously, the willpower of the Origin already informed us, the young ancestral god added. This time around, Luo Feng settled the sector beast crisis, thus making a great contribution. Most certainly, this is enough reason to release Teacher Origin. I believe that by now, the willpower of the Origin should already be starting to release Teacher Origin. Wait a little while longer. Teacher Origin should appear here in this ancestral god palace. Already starting to release him. Primal Chaos City leader was excited. Luo Feng was also filled with anticipation. While he had never received guidance from nor been taught by Teacher Origin, it was a fact that Teacher Origin had immense influence over the human race. To put it one way, Teacher Origin had been the leader during the rising of the humans. Huge Axe and Primal Chaos City leader were the guardians maintaining the achievements and prosperity of the humans. Luo Feng, meanwhile, was the pioneer bringing about the glory of the humans. Just wait a little while longer, said the double-faced ancestral god. Primal Chaos City leader, and Luo Feng stood in the hall and waited quietly. Time passed slowly. Suddenly, a powerful ripple filled the hall, and in the space in the middle of the hall, a contorted wormhole appeared. A blurred figure emerged from the wormhole, and instantly appeared within the big hall. Witnessing this scene made Primal Chaos City leader tremble all over. His eyes were filled with excitement. The figure came into view. It was a man garbed in a white robe. In the spot where he had arrived, it was as though all of time and space were subdued by his influence. Everything became peaceful and quiet. Teacher. Primal Chaos City leader made his way over via teleportation. Appearing before the man in the white robe, he immediately dropped down on his knees, tears streaming down his cheeks. It had been so long. How long had he waited? To him, Teacher Origin was his teacher. He was his father. To safeguard all that Teacher Origin had created, he, Primal Chaos City leader, had worked conscientiously and with great diligence. Never for a moment had he gone easy on himself, as he had focused on managing and taking care of the entire human race. Throughout countless years, he had earned himself the good reputation of being just and impartial, and he was known for his selflessness in giving his all for the race. Even when it came to accepting and cultivating his disciples, he did everything with the goal of strengthening the human race. This was why the various great beings of the human race were always filled with respect and admiration for Primal Chaos City Leader. They never would have imagined that all Primal Chaos City Leader wanted was to safeguard everything that Teacher Origin had left behind. He did not want to witness the fall of the humans. "Don't be such a baby," said Teacher Origin, laughing as he helped Primal Chaos City Leader to his feet. Primal Chaos City Leader obligingly stood up. Teacher Origin looked at Primal Chaos City Leader. Then, with a sigh, he lamented, "What a pity that huge axe is no longer with us." There was sorrow in Primal Chaos City Leader's eyes as he recounted, Huge Axe was killed by a sector beast. Fortunately, Luo Feng finally managed to settle the sector beast crisis. He also managed to retrieve Huge Axe's supreme treasure, the godly axe, and he has brought it back. Upon returning, Luo Feng had made it a point to bring the godly axe with him. When the higher-ups of the human race learned of this news, they had all gasped in awe. If he could have lived to see this, he'd have been very happy, Teacher Origin said. This child has always been reckless and loved adventures. I have warned him umpteen times. If only he had half your calmness, then he would not have. Let's not talk about it. Let's drop the subject. To have the guts to call Huge Axe a child, no one other than Teacher Origin would have dared to make such a statement. Huge Axe had been the very first to follow Teacher Origin. After that, Teacher Origin had officially accepted Primal Chaos City Leader as his first disciple. The three had spent a lot of time together. Primal Chaos City Leader was like the younger brother, Huge Axe was like the older brother, and Teacher Origin was like a father to them both. Congratulations, Teacher Origin. You finally got your freedom back. The three ancestral gods walked over. They were also filled with admiration for Teacher Origin, one of the earliest beings throughout the entire primal universe, who was so extraordinary that he was one of a kind. Then, the three looked into the distance at the other figure in a white robe. Luo Feng. White-robed Teacher Origin, and white-robed Luo Feng. They were two incomparably dazzling beings from the human race, one from the early period and one from the middle period. They had completely different styles. Teacher Origin was calmer and more laid back. In his presence, other great beings would feel as though they were basking in a spring breeze. On the other hand, Luo Feng was like a blade cutting through the sky. Although he was courteous to others, he was always so sharp, always taking everything upon himself, always sporting absolute determination that made him adhere to all his intentions, so that his presence alone sent shudders through any other great being. Thanks. Teacher Origin took one look at the three ancestral gods and smiled as he nodded. Primal Chaos City Leader, Luo Feng. Teacher Origin took one long look at Luo Feng. Let's go. Luo Feng nodded. He could sense that Teacher Origin had quite a lot to say to him. It was just that they were within Ancestral God Palace, which was not a good place for deeper conversations. Let's go. Luo Feng nodded. Right away, the three vanished into thin air. The three ancestral gods watched the three pinnacle beings of the human race leaving and looked at one another. The double-faced ancestral god could not resist a sigh. With the return of Teacher Origin, the human race now has Teacher Origin and Luo Feng. They will glow even more brilliantly and gloriously. Teacher Origin had provoked the willpower of the Origin into suppressing him, the old ancestral god said. But Luo Feng. Even the willpower of the Origin dared not provoke him. He is even more terrifying. The two of them are now reunited with the human race. The human race. How formidable they are going to be in the future. In terms of ability, either one of them could easily attain the level of void space, the young ancestral god commented. Within our universe ocean, I think we can most likely expect to see two more Holy Land universes emerging. Everyone knew it. The moment Luo Feng settled the sector beast crisis, there were no longer any foes from the outside. The human race could certainly expect a long period of prosperity. For the countless billions of eras that followed, the human race would surely do its best to cultivate their later generations to allow their race to become stronger. The return of Teacher Origin was like adding wings to a tiger. The human race would get even mightier and more powerful. When the humans got stronger, the other races would look up to them. No one would dare harbor thoughts of enmity toward the humans thereafter. Within the human territory, on one of the corridors of Milky Way Holy Land, Teacher Origin, Primal Chaos City Leader, and Luo Feng looked around as they strolled. Look at the doors of those universe passageways, Teacher Origin lamented through a smile. The entire primal universe. There are universe passageways of true gods from every other race to be found here. Ha ha ha. Back then, I would never have imagined that such a scene was possible. Luo Feng. Teacher Origin turned to look at Luo Feng at his side. I have been suppressed for so long. Now, you have appeared. For a long time, I have been watching you. At first, it only seemed to me that a new true god had been born to my human race. I would never have expected you to make it this far, even to the extent of releasing me from eternal suppression. This kindness you have bestowed upon me, there is no way I can ever repay you enough. Please, accept a bow from me. Luo Feng immediately reached out to stop him. This will not do, he said. Strictly speaking, Teacher Origin was his teacher's ancestor. Well, you have shown me extreme kindness, and that is a fact. Teacher Origin, with Luo Feng holding on to him, was unable to complete his bow. He could only manage a half bow. You need not be mindful of anyone else. Teacher, that is just the kind of person you are. Primal Chaos City Leader sighed helplessly. Taking note of the situation, Luo Feng immediately changed the topic. Right? Teacher Origin. I have always wanted to ask, what did you do back then to make the willpower of the Origin so upset that it had to keep you suppressed? Earlier, when I first requested your release, the willpower of the Origin actually transmitted a message saying that it was limited by the supreme law, so there was simply no way it could let you out. Only after the Sector Beast crisis was over would it release you. Yes, Teacher, Primal Chaos City Leader added. Teacher, when you previously brought up the matter, you only touched on it briefly. What is it all about? Primal Chaos City Leader only knew that Teacher Origin and the willpower of the Origin were enemies, and that they were going to battle soon. As for the most fundamental reason, he knew nothing at all. There is no rush. Teacher Origin shook his head with a smile. Luo Feng, I heard you destroyed Purple Moon Holy Land Universe. Yes. Luo Feng nodded. With this news already out into the open, Teacher Origin, who had everything within the virtual universe under his control, would definitely know about it. Then I would like to ask, after destroying Purple Moon Holy Land Universe, what about Purple Moon Ancestor? There was a glimmer of anticipation in Teacher Origin's eyes. Where is he? He has transcended reincarnation, so he has eternal life. The moment his miniature universe is destroyed, all the races, universe masters, and true gods that resided in it would die along with it, but Purple Moon Ancestor could still be alive. Have you seen him? Luo Feng shook his head. No, I have not seen him. No. Teacher Origin was taken aback. Could it be? Could it have just been a godly-powered avatar? Teacher Origin stood in one spot, dazed. Could it be? Could it be? If I had known earlier. If I had known earlier, I would not have even considered walking down this path. Luo Feng and Primal Chaos City Leader looked at one another. What was wrong? This video will end here.